You're listening to the Bear in Mind podcast, episode number 78.
A podcast uncovering identity, color, and love, where driving yourself crazy is totally sane and curable. Now your host, T. Vias.
The worst case scenario. Now, this is something that our human brains love to do. It loves to go to what's the worst thing that could happen if you were to do A, B, C, or D. And usually it corresponds to doing something new, something that's a challenge, and something that's just not in our comfort zone. And we've all kind of heard some of the expressions about, going outside of your comfort zone and things like that. But the reason why a lot of us don't is because our brain will tell us a really good story to keep us safe, like a really, really good story, and that you want to listen to it. And that is called the worst case scenario. It'll present to you all of the things that could go wrong if you did this thing that you kind of are interested in doing or kind of curious about. Yeah, it'll say, well, this could happen. I know this is something that comes up, not necessarily for me in the beginning of my goal, because I generally tend to love beginnings and starting new. This happens a little after I've been working kind of hard towards a goal and, I start to notice things aren't going my way. And voila, the worst case scenario pops into my head, and it really becomes a really big script of all of things that can go wrong. And what it's propelling me to do is the action I want to kind of take from thinking about the worst case scenario. Well, first of all, it doesn't lead me to take any action, but what it wants me to stop, to eventually to quit. That kind of feeling of like, oh, this could happen, so I might as well stop now. So I want you to think of something that you're going after. It could be, losing weight, investing money, whatever it is. And I want you to think about your worst case scenario. I actually want you to really think about it. Since your brain is already going to kind of do it, identify what would be the worst thing that could happen. Mine sometimes is that I will look like a failure to my family and friends. In some cases, it's been, I could lose some money. And in maybe your situation, maybe it would be to lose almost all of your money. Then what would happen? Would you live back at home with your parents? If you're married, would you need to live with your in-laws or something like that? What is your worst case scenario? Let's say you were to lose money. And I want you to look at it, and I want you to really look at your worst case scenario and really think, is that really so bad? If you had to go and live with somebody else, back at home with your family, you have a home, and you're not on the streets, and you would have food and you had shelter. So the worst case scenario isn't technically that bad. Now, you may not want to be there, for sure. You may not want to go and move back in with your parents or anything like that. But is it truly so bad? Is it truly where you could end up with, being on the streets or something like that? And the answer is probably no. So write it down, stare it in the face. Your worst case scenario on the thing that you're working on, the thing that you're afraid of doing, and write it down. And I'm going to tell you something. That is not your worst case scenario. Quitting is your worst case scenario. There's an economics concept called opportunity costs, and it's where you look at the impact of making one choice over another. And let's say you've been working on something, and I've done this. I've been working on something, and I get into the middle of it, and I think, okay, I shouldn't continue with this, and I should stop. And I've actually stopped a lot of things that I've started because of the worst case scenario. And the opportunity cost is not that everything kind of just stayed the same. Okay, no big deal. The opportunity cost, I'm at the same place. I didn't accomplish my goal, but I'm still in the same situation. The opportunity cost would be what I could have gained had I continued to work at my goal and eventually achieve it. That the opportunity cost, that is your worst case scenario. When you stop, when you quit. You've lost out on what you could have succeeded had you not quit. And it has taken me a while to even see that. And I'm still having to think about that because right now, when I spent a couple days and I was feeling like a failure, I really wanted to quit. I wanted to change direction. I was like, this is not working. Maybe I should go back and do the other job that I had and develop those skills and then do that and all of these things. Like I had so many other situations that I could be doing and maybe those would work and everything like that. And because I started to move myself out of that failure, I was able to get myself looking at what the worst case scenario actually means. And I've experienced that worst case scenario, not actually achieving some of the goals that I have wanted to achieve. Now, I have accomplished things in my life and I'm very proud of, and I have worked hard at. There are other goals that I have from this genuine place of true desire that I have wanted to achieve for myself that I have not achieved. And I have started and stopped so many things to the point where my worst case scenario is now the loss of that thing that I could have achieved had I not quit. It's a hard one to stomach because if you even think about it, even when you think about losing weight, well, what's the big deal? Why continue on eating this way? I'll just eat what I like. I'll eat all the chocolate I want and things like that. And I'll be in the same situation. I'll be the same weight. And in reality, what I'm losing out at is that weight that I want or that health goal that I'm trying to achieve. That's my worst case scenario, is that I haven't reached that goal, that dream that I have, the dream that I have for my career. And so when I contrast the two worst case scenarios, so the one that I told you to look at the beginning of the episode. So my worst case scenario is that people will think of me as a failure. If I do this thing, if I continue on this track, people will see me as a failure. They'll think, oh, who does she think she is for doing this? And things like that. And the worst case scenario then, if I contrast to that, to not achieving it, to me, that's even worse. That I won't achieve that thing that I want. That I won't get there. That I won't become the person that I want to become, that is going to be that person that achieves that goal. That growth, that development. That's my opportunity cost. That's what I'm really losing at. So look at that thing that you most want, and what does it mean to you if you don't achieve that? And I'll check back with you next week.
Thanks for listening. Listen for a new episode next Tuesday by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Bye for now.